Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to 52 Topics with Frank Fiorellino. Ridgewood, A True Story. Season 2, Episode 4. A Calm Before the Storm. So in Episode 3, we introduced Vito Guzzo, meet Vito Guzzo. We spoke a little bit about him, his beginnings being around Frank's friends, some of the vibes Frank got off of him, and also some of the vibes that he got from this new friend group based on somebody that Frank has been speaking to. Also, we spoke about the death of Kenneth Drankan, and Tabita getting in trouble, the whole bomb situation in Florida. Tabita ultimately gets off on that, and things are.
Well, Vito starts coming around more and more, and he's feeling comfortable. I've talked to some people that told me at the time when he did start coming around, he was reluctant because of that situation in his first shooting where he had gotten shot and the Joe Conti issue. And Joe Conti, obviously, his uncle is Patsy Conti, and Patsy Conti is involved with a lot of the Sicilians in my neighborhood, especially from the Gambino side. So that's like Fabio and his family. There's more, but like Tabita's dad or people at that time. A lot of people corresponded to Patsy Conti because they had that common denominator. They all came from the same part of Sicily. But anyhow, he starts coming around. Vito does, and when Vito starts coming around, he starts getting more familiar with some of the guys. More Tabita. He starts getting friendly with Tabita, Paul. Me, myself, I start getting acquainted with him. It takes about a month or two. It's always high and goodbye and it's cordial and it's friendly, but it's not. You could see he's gravitating towards um, that, if you will, like let's call them factions of the Janini crew. Okay, there's about three of them, and one has two factions that are together, and one that's a little bit grown apart. Um, so that's that. Baldo starts coming around at this point, and he's on parole, but he's also working at the Janini Cafe. So he as a maitre d, he's listed. Um, he has one of Paul's friends, our friends growing up, but closer to Paul, this kid Ricardo, who's friends with Tony S., who attempted to kill Bobby Wizniak. We talked about that. And he works as a valet there. So, he's getting his ends. He's getting to know these kids. Well, Baldo is one way or another. To what degree, that's up to you guys to judge. But he does.
Isn't that
And,
pretty dangerous though? Like even, unwittingly he could be having a coffee at a table and there's a felon saying hello to him just by, you know what I'm saying?
very arrogant, very, very quick. 1 minute you see him, 1 minute you don't. Very sly, very sly. There was many times where he would park outside and honk real quick, and you could make eye contact with him if I was in the place, and I know already it would be a different car at times. I know he is. He's a tall guy, and he would just tell me like, "Go get so and tell him meet me in a corner or something." And he would meet so and so in the corner. It depended. Sometimes it was his cousin, obviously, who also was named owner at the Janini Cafe, Nino Mistretta, or anybody he wanted to talk to at the time. So that's how that went. But and at times when he did come in, we also had a back entrance at the Janini's, and there was garages there. I will get to them later because a lot of those garages served as where we would hide, or some of us would hide. Mostly the Paul and his clique, motorcycles that were stolen, cars that were stolen, some goods, whatever, guns, whatever we needed at the time. And it was mostly for them, but if I needed to put something there, there wasn't a problem with that. Um, he would go through the back, Baldo would, and when he did, he made sure the shades to the front were closed, and he'd go into this other room. And people, once they went in there and seen he was there, they would pop right out, and he'd just give like a hi, a
Okay. Yeah.
sarcastic like hello. That's who he has become. Like, who had he become at that point? I think he was always careful about at this point, where he wasn't at first with my side of the family, just because my uncle was such a Messino loyalist. You understand? So he didn't know where we stood.
Yeah.
So he was careful with that. I felt, and that was the way it changed, because we did get somewhat closer in the years to come, 2 or 3 years after. But that's like I said, a lot of episodes away. I also remember at this time that the kid Riff was in Rikers. He had gotten in jail. He got a bullet a year, and he went there. He was, if you remember, he was the kid I got arrested with that assault on a cop.
Yep.
2 years prior to this, and he was a funny kid. Always liked him, and he was more of a, not so much a Fabio guy, but definitely in between Fabio and Paul, if you would, more an Anthony Tabita guy actually. So that's what we got there. So Fabio starts at this time palling around with Joe Shalara, who becomes, like I said, his future ex-brother-in-law. Fabio marries Joe Shalara's sister, and John Clemenza. And John Clemenza, they start palling around. And Joe Shalara, who grows up in Middle Village, he starts recruiting kids from Middle Village, who we're going to get to, kids that become part of these robbery teams. You got to remember, within in a couple of months from the time we're talking about right now, these guys are robbing everything, banks. And then it was you always hear about that bank where they robbed twice. There's more like 15 banks involved. Okay.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of shit. They're robbing card players who are winning at card games. They're robbing Boar's Head trucks, Entenmann cakes, pet shops, shootouts with armored cars. So this is all going to be coming in the future. And then of course there's the murders. He starts up howling around with them, but he still is going to these these meetings with the Gambino Sicilians. Fabio is where Paul and the other guys are not so much. Fabio starts bringing Joe Shalara to a couple of these. And you remember, Joe Shalara technically was a Bonanno associate because of his uncle, who's Sal Catalano, but he's shifting more towards hanging out with Fabio and they're, becoming part of his clique. And then eventually, who knows, if he would have got made one day, probably became a Gambino guy, him and Fabio.
Okay, so I was going to ask that. Like, so you're saying Fabio's more of like a Gambino associate speaking, or?
Yeah, he is, and that's through his family. Who ran under in America they ran under the Patsy Conti flag, but in Sicily they ran under their own flag. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it. Yep.
Yeah, and that's where Paul probably gets his cockiness from. Like, I'm fuck them. I got family back home that fucking you guys don't even, you can't even compare with it. And he's probably right on that too. Especially with some of the people we are dealing with. Veto starts bringing in his friends too at this, so we're gonna introduce them too. He brings John Leota, who's his cousin. He brings him in. He's also a friend of Bobby Wizyak. Not really involved, but low key. He's Vito's cousin, and that at that point speaks volumes. So but fun to hang out with. We used to go out and drink. Me, Bobby, and John at times, and we had a common interest in American sports and American. They played American. Both of them were very good athletes. So I used to enjoy hanging out with them. They also was Joe O'Kane, another good athlete that I got to play against, and we used to play the neighborhoods and with softballs. And Joe O'Kane, and I knew Joe O'Kane from Kevin Antonucci, who we're gonna get to, but I also knew him through my brother's friends, my brother Joe's friends. This guy Benny, who owned this bar, Looney Tunes, and Al Torres, who used to hang out there a lot and grew up with Benny. They're originally Bushwick kids who who did pretty okay for themselves in life. You know what I mean? But Joe
Yeah.
again, he was obviously a Gambino guy, but was very friendly with Veto. They got along very well. Every time you see them, you never seen them like they brought each other out, like in a sense that if he was stone, if he was nonchalant or just fucking not very approachable. When he was around Joe Vito Guzzo, that is around Joe Kane, there was laughing around each other. They had a common um rapport, demeanor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Joe was good. Joe was good. I got along with Joe very well. A lot of people say that when he didn't like somebody, he could have been an ass. I never seen it. I always seen this happy-go-lucky guy. I knew he was fucking crazy, but got involved with a lot of stabbings, shootings. Real tough guy. Ends up owning that strip club, Naked City. And there's rumors that he even fucking got into it with Vinny Oceans. That knocked him on his ass.
Yeah. We it's been mentioned before.
Tough guy. He was a tough guy. Maybe one of the issue. Very OCD too. I knew people who shared a cell with him in jail. A friend of mine said, "Fucking the guy was on his knees, waxing, fucking, just couldn't leave anything out of place." You know what I mean? He was always that guy. Joe DeLeo was like that too, the Duke. Not that bad though. He was like tough. We would just hang out, fucking drinking beers in his apartment. He'd be like, "Yeah, take something and hide it wherever you want to hide it. I'll tell you what's missing." Like, come on, bro, come on. You really don't want to argue with him because it would have been like fucking. All right, come on, just sit down, enjoy the game. No, do it. We'd be fucked up, And he know whatever you took, he know where the fuck it was missing. You know what I mean? So Joe was kind of like anal that way, but he started coming around as well. So this whole clique on Fresh Pond and Gates, and then Janini's is getting to be wild, well, not wilder, but it's beginning to grow its an ugly head. You understand, with all these components, and and you got Fabio at the time. He's not yet convinced with this whole thing. He gets this oriented with the whole thing later on, but he's got his own agenda. He's dating Sammy DeFalco's daughter at the time, and this is about the same time he's about to open up a club on Metro and Elliott. He opens up a social club, and they open it up for him. And he goes out with Sam. This could be like the mob wedding, Sammy DeFalco he's part owner of the Janini's restaurant. He's at the restaurant. He's him and Barlow are really close. And, he's been in the neighborhood for a very long time. So if his daughter marries Fabio and his mom, Fabio's mom, is all about it, this is going to be a big wedding, in those kind of circumstance, mob-wise. They end up breaking up. Fabio sees about fucking 7, 8 different girls, always did. Kid probably found out, broke up with him. And she decided to go out with this other kid, Iggy, from my neighbor that I grew up with. And they're not even longer together as long, they just broke up eventually as well. But she gets with Iggy. Fabio finds out after, and the mother's livid. She wants to throw them out at the fucking cafe. Well, Sam, she doesn't want her to have nothing to do with the place because they rent that property to Baldo and Sammy, and she's just fucking livid. There was rumors that Sammy was having an affair with some person that was a lot younger. And, she was helping fucking putting that out too, that he has this freaking girl at the place all the fucking time. Sammy does. And this is all about because her little prince, mafia prince, got dumped. And he's married. How can he fucking do that? She was very, very, very pissed off. People had to get involved and actually tell them to stop. Just let it go, And they did, but they were bitter about it. And Sammy just went about his business at the time. But she was pissed. Yeah, and then Ralphie starts coming around. So all these things are just fucking. He starts coming around the Janini coffee shop now.
Ralph
guys
Schuler.
Well, he was always there, Ralph Schuler, yeah. So
Yeah.
he's there. He starts bringing around Big Rob, Swedish guy we know in our life, about 10 years older than us. So it was kind of weird, you know. He's got this guy that's about 6'8". He looks like Bobby Burriello with the fucking. He been doing he used to bouncer everywhere, you know, like the head bouncer wherever he was. He was just this big figure, and he used to hang out with my friend Peter Bambauer's brother Mike. Ralph did, Mike Bambauer, who looked like the Ultimate Warrior without the makeup. So he was getting this new fucking trend going, like, you know, he's getting his crew. Fuck you guys, you know, this is where it's at. I take, you know, he's got his Mercedes, he's got these fucking goons with him, and he's got fucking Joe Gambino with him, who Joe is is no fucking stranger to extra activities, if you know what I mean. He likes to know stuff at the time. So he's fidgety as a motherfucker. So you see all these guys come in, cracking jokes, being a little stupid. The other two guys never did anything. They would just smile and laugh. They were always nice and cordial. It was basically Ralph and Joe. Ralph would fucking tell a joke, and Joe would just have this horse laugh that he would fucking like just go crazy and start laughing. And it was so ridiculous that you start laughing after he got done laughing. You know what I mean?
This is Joe Gambino, right?
Yes, yeah,
The
yeah, yeah,
nano
yeah.
associate would later be around like Sicali and Vinny Gorgeous later on, right?
Yes, definitely. And then I remember, you know, they were saying he was getting made. I was like, well, I mean, don't get me wrong, Joe's a good, but he was just not in that aspect of that life. I think he didn't want that. And I didn't think he did. I think he refused them, actually, believe it or not.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not putting anyone's stuff out there, but it seems like a guy who knows how to make money on his own anyway. I mean,
He does. He does. Joe does. You gotta remember, Joe Gambino grew up very, very young in that life. I mean, he dropped out like in the fifth, sixth grade. You know how a lot of people have all the brains in the world, but they have no common sense of street knowledge?
yeah, yep,
He's the other way around.
right.
He's the other way around. He's got good street sense. You know, educated wise, whatever, not so much, but that don't matter. It's at the end of the day, you know, it's the common sense that goes. But his family all gets arrested. His mother, his father, his uncle, his grandfather, and he's left to run a coffee shop at 15, 16 years old, which gradually was taken away from him by his uncle because he was just too fucking young, you know, and people were starting to walk all over him. But you know, eventually he grew up in business very young, but he had his issues. But there was a lot of good to him too. He wasn't a bad guy. Just had problems though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No, well, it's a lot of pressure
Yeah,
putting
yeah.
into
So
certain
but this
positions
is
as a young guy.
this is a time that Ralph is pining so hard to get in with the Howard Beach guys. I told you he's more leaning towards Bobby Glasses, and that's what he does. Um, and we went from there. But you could see they were starting to hang out a lot together. It was one of the few times at that time that I would have gotten along with Ralph. It was a lot of back and forth bullshit, and it was always it was kind of like funny, but it wasn't. You understand what I mean?
Yeah,
And you know, this is also about the same time that Veto starts noticing that, and of course he doesn't say nothing to Veto, and you know, there's a kind of feeling that he would say something to one of us that he grew up with and joke about it, but not because he felt comfortable. You understand? But not next to Vito. But Vito was the one who was probably taking it the worst.
okay, but like, how do you like? All right, so the way I look at it, though, Frank, is like in the normal world. I'm not saying you guys aren't living in the normal world, but
I don't think we are.
you're
No,
not doing. Yeah, fine. You're not doing regular shit. Like if I had somebody sort of in my friend group that I went to school with, and we're hanging around, and like some new guy comes around, and all of a sudden he's kind of like looking at that kid I knew since grade school a certain way, and maybe plotting on him or coming at him in a certain way. My
he
inclination is
wasn't.
to
He
what?
wasn't. No, this is a year in the making. This is
Right.
you got to remember. So he comes around in '91. Vito Guzzo does.
Yeah.
By the time '91's done, and we go into '92, I'd say for 6 months to 7 months at around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock p.m., we'd all meet up at Janini's in this table right in the. You can't see us. It's a round table towards like the entrance, and we would hang out there right before Paul would go to have dinner because he lived a block away. He just got up and start running. It's one of his things he always did. But we would hang out there and just fucking go tit for tat with each other. But it was always, at one point, it was no longer, would pick on any one of us was different that day. It was just us against Ralph and his friends. Either be Joe Gambino, either be him, so that's just what happened. At one time, they even joking around put a dead fish in his Mercedes wrapped in a newspaper. Yeah. Because it was a joke at the time, there's a silly messenger thing. We had gotten a fucking fish from the seafood place, from this crazy seafood guy nearby. And somebody had put it in the car. It wasn't me. But it wasn't meant like in that fucking, it just happened. He died like 6 months later, he had gotten killed. But there was a lot of stuff going on. I mean, at one point that I could see where it got, one of the kids was missing. So I was behind the counter, and he goes, hey, Frank, fucking make me a couple of fucking ice creams for everybody sitting down. This ice cream sitting down. So what the fuck you think you're talking to? Like just that, I mean, what the fuck? And he'd be like, I'm talking to you. What the fuck? Come on, let's do it. And you got Joe Gambino laughing. But Vito's not taking this too good. Me, I'm taking it because it's Ralph, and we go back and forth. I make fun of him. We talk about him being the next Don, laughing. We laugh at him. So it's going back and forth. But he's not taking it well. And, it got me to the point where, wait a minute, this guy fucking back. I go, listen, now you ain't getting shit. You and that fucking Joe right there. I forgot what I called him. I used to call him Gumnuts because his last name was Gambino. I go, him and Gumnuts, he ain't getting nothing. Matter of fact, I said, I'd roll in shit before I give you anything. How about that? and that's Vito starts laughing. He goes, I love that. That was good. So he goes to him. He goes, hey, listen, Ralph, how about me and Frankie take you and Joe around the corner on Gates, and we fight a one-on-one, just us. That's it. And nothing happened. Whoever wins, wins. Whoever loses, loses. Ralph takes a step back and goes, why, Vito? I thought we were all friends here. He goes, I mean, why the fuck we're gonna fight? I mean, we're just kidding, No, you're not kidding. He goes, no, you just have a way about you. And he was right. He goes, I don't like you. He told him straight out. That's the first time he was, like the room just got fucking cold. Because I don't like you. And he goes, and I never liked you. He goes, so let's just not pretend we're friends.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too ahead on what happens with that, but in hindsight, maybe it would have been better if they just beat the shit out of each other on the corner. Maybe it would have fucking actually solved or helped solve something later. But
no,
I don't
there
know.
was no hands putting on.
I don't know.
On neither one of them. Ralph probably would have took him because he had no choice, but Vito would not take he would not take the L. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't want to get ahead. This is a lot of stuff that's coming. At this point, Tabita starts getting really close with Vito, and he still has those open cases coming up. This is around 91. I told you that Baccarat's ready to flare up the second year I'd be working there. And it's at Janini's again. The last year it's at Janini's, actually. The year coming up. The Howard Beach regime, or whatever the fuck they want to, I hate that word, is crumbling. John Jr. is taking over there. He wants to disassociate himself with the younger people he hung out at one time. So he kind of chases John A. Light at the time. This is the time he chases him. What this is going on. And Vito was not a fan of John A. Light. For whatever reason, Joe Kane, who was close with Vito, had a fallout with John too. They don't even today when you listen to John A. Light, he says that they were good friends, and then at one point he scumbagged them, and I don't know what he meant by that, but that was his take on it. Maybe one day we could bring him on the show, and he could explain that.
Yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was, they know each other forever. Vito had his own reasons for not liking him. John shot his bouncers at one time at the place he was taking care of. The same place that we'll get to, that Vito took action against another Howard Beach person, not knowing it was. And
Let me ask you this. I mean, let me ask you. You just said, and we've spoken about that before. If you guys want to hear about, we did an episode. I think we called it "Meet John Jr." or the Gotti regime, kind of what was going on at that time.
Yeah.
So you guys can check that out. But you said before, like, Vito didn't like taking the L, or he wouldn't take the L, but he took the L on that. No. Or is that because of the whole Gotti apparatus behind Eli? Is that why?
He took the L. He wasn't there. He's not the one who got shot.
No, I'm saying he shot his bouncers at his club.
Look who he had to go against at the time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it's simply because of the whole Gotti thing, basically.
Taking the L and being smart are two different things. You know what I mean?
Right.
He would have never. Okay, let me take that back. He would have never took the L against Ralph Schuler.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or anybody, even anybody. So that's just the way that was. But meanwhile, Vito gets close with Anthony. Anthony is close. Anthony Tabita is close with another guy that grew up in our neighborhood that I was always close with. That was David Antonucci. And Vito and David didn't get along. And that was, I think, through Joe O'Kane. So Joe O'Kane had an attempt on his life. I think we talked about this one time, didn't we? He was at his mother's house. And somebody rings the bell and they have like flowers. There's two guys. He looks over. It's his grandmother's house. They push his grandmother out of the way. He comes out. They wrestle with the gun, according to Joe. I could get this a little mixed up, so I don't want to be like, but this is the end result. He takes the gun away from the guy and he shoots the guy. He kills the guy. The grandmother gets out of the way. The other guy tries to get away. And I don't know if he shoots the other guy or if the guy just got away. One guy was dead, possibly two. I'm not sure. But this is what happened. One guy tried to kill him and got killed in his house. He always thought that the Antonucci's had something to do with that because they had gotten a fallout with, and when I mean the Antonucci's, I mean Kevin and David. And there's also Michael, but there was always Kevin and David that would hang out, and Michael was always in and out of jail. He if he was out on the streets for more than 4 or 5 months, it was a lot. Matter of fact, he's doing life, So he always thought that. So with that, they met in Manhattan. I think they actually seen David there, and Anthony always liked David, and he said, Vito, David's a good guy. Why don't we go somewhere and you guys could talk about it and and make amends? You know what I mean? He hates John A. Light. You hate John A. Light. You guys have something fucking common. John Jr., the weasel that he is, gave fucking A. Light the green. He gave them the green light to do whatever the fuck they want. I had a fallout with him. You want him, go get him. You know what I'm saying? That's just the way he is. They use people. We see it. They always do. You're only as good as your next friend, So he throws him out to the dogs. Anthony brokers this relationship between David Antonucci and Vito in the city. And this whole fucking clique is growing and growing, you see? There's a lot of people, a lot of components involved. I could go on with these episodes for fucking ever, But at the end of the day, fucking go back to Paul. We haven't mentioned him in a while. I remember this time because it was like the summertime and his gambling was probably getting worse. Mine was definitely getting worse. So it's like I worked just to gamble, it was getting bad. And I don't know, one day he had just played cards in the back with the older guys. He just never really showed much emotions or nothing, but he wasn't emotional this day. He just wanted to talk, I guess. He goes, I talked to my father, and he rarely talked to me about talking to his dad. His dad was in jail. He says hi. I said, yeah, tell your dad I said hi. He goes, yeah, I think I had a couple of drinks on me at the time. I was just off of work, and we were like in the front room of the Janini's. The barista was in the other room watching them guys play cards, the last table, and he goes, I got a cousin of mine that's in the military. He's very, very, very respected in that kind of world that he's in. And I'm probably thinking my dad probably thinks, to get out of his fucking, rut, whatever. Maybe it's a good idea if I fucking go to the military. I go, you know what? I got nothing here either. We were talking. I don't know if it was fucking, we were drinking or what. So I go, I don't know, man. You know what? That's a good fucking idea because I got nothing fucking here either. Look at this shit. We're 21 years old, 22, and this is what we got. What do we got to look ahead? And think about it. He ends up doing like 28 years in fucking jail later. I end up fucking looking at life imprisonment. I flip, I know. I do my fucking little 7 years, my fucking touchdown, whatever. And in hindsight, it was fucking a great idea. So, I was in. I was all in. I don't know if he was at that point. I go home in the morning. My mom's been through a lot. She lost her son, everything. I tell her, hey, Mom, I think I want to go military. I think I had enough brains to know where my life was going at that point. But, in her mind, she didn't want to lose. No, I don't know what but I hate to say it. I really didn't care. I'm going to do it. And I probably would have other days. But I get a ring. She goes, hey, look, your uncle wants to talk to you, which is her brother. I go, oh. Your uncle Cheech. I said, where? I didn't do nothing wrong at the time. It's usually when when you know something's wrong, he wants to talk to you. I just knew. He's at the cafe. He's up in Middle Village. I said, okay, I'll go up there. He goes, hey, sit down. I go, yeah, what's up? He goes, I didn't say that. I go, hey, kiss him hello, whatever. He goes, I hear you want to join the military. You go, are you crazy? I go, what do you mean? I mean, I don't know. I got nothing here. I go, what the fuck am I doing? I work in a coffee shop, or doing whatever, getting in trouble. He goes, yeah, well, you don't want to do it. You want to wake up and everybody's going to tell you what to do all the time. You're never going to get freedom. And then eventually, if you have to go to war, you got to go to war. I said, well, I'll go to war.
What's the fucking difference, to be honest with you, though?
Yeah, and he kind of said, well, he flipped it around. He was like, well, your mother's been through a lot of shit, and you're the youngest, and basically, you'll be breaking her heart and doing whatever. So he kind of played with my heartstrings, So I was like, yeah, I guess, all right, and it never happened. And then years later, I'm living, in the program and all over the United States. And I most of my friends these days are military. I look at them; they got 20 years in. Obviously, I didn't know them during major conflicts where I'd seen somebody die. Thank God. It wasn't like I was going into Vietnam. Of course, it was Afghanistan or whatever. I know who knows. I might have been there.
Yeah,
4
I mean,
years.
listen, it wouldn't have been the worst time to join the service. I mean, unless if you made a career out of it, yeah, you probably would have ended up in the Middle East or whatever, the war on terror or whatever. But it's interesting I know your uncle was pulling at your heartstrings for your mother. I don't know if in his own heart,
yeah, for sure.
I don't know.
That was it. But I
I don't
have
know if
friends
in
of
his
mine
like,
I have friends of mine that are Navy SEAL. I didn't have physically, never could have met it
right.
as a SEAL. Regular Navy guys, regular a lot of them, Marines, good friends of mine. Some of them did 20 years and have contract work now. I mean, I have a friend of mine. He's a badass. He can fucking shoot anything. He's still active. A lot of these guys are making close to 150, 200 working for the government, so.
Right. I mean, and it's interesting, like, you wake up, someone's telling you what to do. If you got to go to war, you're going to war. I mean, it really doesn't sound too different than, remaining in that lifestyle, You mean you're waking up. I mean, ultimately, if you push it in a certain way that you did, I mean, you wake up, you have a job or whatever, but I suppose you're really at the whim of your uppers. You do what they tell you to do, and if you guys got to go to war, then you literally go to war. So it's not too
I don't know. It
dissimilar.
probably been fun singing "Dumb Diddy Do" in a fucking military line. You know what I'm saying? Going through fucking boot camp.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know,
Maybe
bro.
you,
Like, 'cause
you,
listen, I didn't have a problem with it, and
yeah,
now that I kind of regret it when a lot of these people they travel the world. A lot of Navy guys do too.
yes,
I
yeah,
mean, there's a downfall to I know guys that are in submarines. They hate life. They come out, they fucking
yeah,
they're raising hell at the bars. You know what I mean? Because they've been confined for so fucking long. Then we gotta fucking get them in cars and shit. You know?
yeah. So summer '91, you guys are starting to be around Baldo. Messino's going to get out the following year.
Right.
Any rumblings or anything going on, like, Fat Joe or whatever the hell, he's getting out soon.
No, it seems like he just comes out.
He just
And
appears.
yeah, he just comes
Yeah.
out, and it's. I think it was more a to do being around the Grimaldi. You know, started being around Joe Grimaldi and everything, and we had that common interest that we were both relatives of Bonanno members. That was kind of like for us, kind of like refreshing in a way,
Okay.
and because all we used to hear about is the fucking Gotti this, Gotti that. So now we basically had somebody that we had in our corner, you know, because basically the Bananas were fucking the redheaded stepchild for a while.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when he comes out, and even people start flocking towards me and Joe a lot more from other sides because I guess of the impact Joe brought to the family.
Yeah.
And I mean Joe Grimaldi. Yeah. You know, so we
Yeah.
get
The '80s weren't kind to the Bonanno crime family.
who you telling? I was in high school and he's fucking
Yeah.
John Gotti's paper boy fucking was walking around with a big chest.
Crazy.
Yeah,
Crazy.
not
Yeah. There's a
knowing
lot of
that.
other mitigating
Yeah, I
factors.
don't give a fuck who your uncle is because you know what? I bring my papers to John Gotti.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Crazy stuff. Crazy stuff.
not
No,
to
so
take
this is
away from
good.
Howard Beach. There was a lot of good people in Howard Beach. A lot of good people, friends, and everything that
Of
I like.
course. Of course. But I do think, and I really I don't want to offend anyone when I say this, and if I do, I mean, so be it. But I do think, and especially when I watch like those old news clips of Ozone Park or Howard Beach, I do get a sense of like a collective hypnosis. Almost, it's almost freaky.
Yep.
It's almost very cult like. It's almost to me. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I think it's
Yep.
I think it's what I just said it is. And I guess if you're on the other side of that in real life, it could be pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah, even the girl, you see that clip where the 4th of
Yeah,
July.
I know exactly what girl you're talking about.
Even if I knew John Gotti, I wouldn't tell you. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
every fucking girl that I went to school with from Ozone Park, and not every,
Yeah.
but at least 90%, and Howard Beach, especially Howard Beach.
Yeah, yeah. So this is good, man. I mean, listen, we're adding characters every week. You're assembling the crew. I think every week somebody learns something new, and ultimately, I suppose the crew will basically be all assembled, and like we said, the calm before the storm. This has been episode 4 of Ridgewood, A True Story. The calm before the storm. Thank you, everybody.
The end of the Civil War was near when quite accidentally the hero who sneezed abruptly ceased retreat and reversed it to victory. His Medal of Honor pleased and thrilled his proud little family group. While pinning it on, some blood was spilled, and so it was planned he'd command F Troop. Where Indian fights are colorful sights and nobody takes a lickin'. Where pale face and red skin both turn chicken. When thrilling and fighting get them down, they know their morale can't droop. As long as they all relax in town before they resume with a bang and a boom. F Troop! end of the Civil War was near when quite accidentally a hero who sneezed abruptly ceased retreat and reversed it to victory. His Medal of Honor pleased and thrilled his proud little family group while pinning it on some